This is Lightning Power Lunch, presented by Reef Rum on the Lightning Audio Network with Dave Mishkin and Greg Linnelli.
Yeah, give the other team credit. They played well too, and we just got to battle back and get ready for the game tonight against Pittsburgh. All right, that was John Cooper.
You practicing your post-game sound bites?
Well, we needed a soundbite coming in.
Oh, that's true.
So
thank you, Greg.
We needed a soundbite coming in, and I figured I would just, do my best whatever impersonation and get us going because we're used to having that.
The plan was to have a Ryan McDonagh soundbite, but he did it too close to the start of the show.
He did.
His session. But there is news on the Ryan McDonagh front if you haven't been following along.
Ryan McDonagh signs a 3-year contract extension. Average annual value, partner, $4.1 million.
Yeah.
36 McDonagh is, and obviously has been the backbone of Tampa Bay's back end for a few years now. And, you and I have talked about him and what he's meant to this team in terms of his play and his leadership. And not every 36-year-old is created equal when it comes to the NHL and what you're willing to sign and what you're willing to give somebody. But, we talked about the metrics yesterday and internally organizations evaluating players with certain metrics that they do use. And some would say, look, a 36-year-old, you're giving him 4 years, although a lot of teams can cut ties after 2 years if you really wanted to.
Yeah.
You do feel like that the Lightning have looked at this and said, not only is this guy productive off the ice in terms of his leadership, but he really hasn't slowed down on the ice. And while that could happen at any point, because Father Time hits us all, there's a little bit of a calculated gamble there, but enough where the Lightning were like, you know what, we think this guy is going to be pretty good. Maybe not for the full 4 years, because
3 years.
3 years. He's going to be playing close to 39, 40, but they felt comfortable enough to at least go down that road and lock him in a little bit more.
Yeah, I think, Greg, what's surprising about this is not that they re-signed McDonagh. I mean, we've talked about it on the show. I fully expected that he was going to get re-signed. What was surprising was the timing because during training camp, Julien Brisebois said, I want to wait till the end of the year to talk about renegotiating with McDonagh. I want to keep Ryan McDonagh, is what Julien said, but we're not going to have negotiations until this season is over. And we took some questions about that during training camp in the preseason, and the way I connected the dots anyway was this way. Julien wanted to see what he had this year and then make an assessment at the end of the year about what they needed to do, if anything. But he didn't want to commit to anyone, including Ryan McDonagh, about a next contract until he kind of had the full picture of what they needed to do next offseason. I think that was the logic behind it. So he called an audible. This was initiated by Julien. Ryan McDonagh said that. McDonagh said, I was surprised when Julien reached out. I thought we were going to, wait until the summer or the offseason, but Julien decided that he wanted to get it done now. So once he decided that, of course, maybe I shouldn't say of course, but I think it's not shocking that McDonagh was amenable. He's the one that said to Barry Trotz in Nashville, I'd like to come back to Tampa and finish my career here. So, look, he's taking a pay cut, which I think would be expected. He was making, $5.85 in the previous contract.
Yeah.
So, Lightning are saving about $1.75 million from the current contract to the next contract. 3 years, so he'll be 37 when next season starts, so he'll play at age 37, 38, and 39. None of this is overly shocking. I think the more interesting question is, why did Julien decide to offer him the contract extension now? And without Julien coming out and saying it to us, he didn't do a press conference today. McDonagh did, Julien didn't. We can only speculate. But let's speculate. So put yourself in Julien's shoes. If your mindset is, I want to know what areas I might need to address during the offseason, the cap is going up,
right?
But I don't want to lock in anything just yet. Why would he change his mind? Well, there may be a couple of reasons. but one of them might be, I kind of have an idea maybe where we're looking next year or how we're looking next year.
Yeah.
And some of this may be tied to some of the guys that have come up and played quite well. Now, I will point out, a guy like Destu is on a 1-year contract. If the Lightning want to keep Charles-Edouard Destu, they're going to have to offer him another contract, right? Who knows? I mean, that's down the road. But it's possible that the picture became less fuzzy for Julian about what he wants to do next offseason. And this is me speculating. This is not me saying Julian pulled me into his office and said, Dave, I'm thinking of re-upping McDonagh. What's your opinion? I'm just telling you kind of some reasons why this change was made in his mindset. So there is an advantage to getting this contract done now. And the advantage is that you hear this term cost certainty, right? Now you have McDonagh locked up and you know the number. It may have been related to McDonagh too. Like you saw McDonagh at the start of the year, although I think that's less likely. McDonagh's been out since he blocked that shot. So it seems less likely that he's like, okay, I'm ready to commit to McDonagh, and more about I kind of have a better idea of what I might need to do or not need to do during the offseason. So let's get McDonagh done.
Yeah.
So we have that number locked in and we can go from there. But without having Julian do a press conference and somebody asking the question and him answering, the best we can do is kind of speculate. But the most important takeaway is McDonagh is locked up for 3 more years after this year. And you're right. He is playing at a very, very high level. At some point, you're right. Father Time catches up to everyone. But the Lightning are going to have this guy anchoring their defense moving forward. And if we reach a point where they need to back off his minutes, back off his responsibilities, they'll cross that bridge when they get to it.
And that number is easier to swallow with the cap going up.
Yeah.
And potentially his production, if it does start to slip, than it would be if the roles were reversed. So keep that all in mind. Also, too, quite frankly, I think Julian Breezewell looks at this and says, I know he's older, but our defense doesn't look the same collectively when Ryan McDonagh's not a big part of what we do.
That's a good point. Yeah, maybe
it's
he's
just not
looking at how things, although it's hard to argue the Lightning have played so well
right now
without him in the lineup.
Right.
But yeah, maybe he's like, let's just get the McDonagh deal done. And it's going to be at a number that I can work with, and we'll now have that number locked in.
Yep.
So it's one less thing we have to do during the offseason. That's possible, too.
Yep. So, again, the cap's going up. Decisions like this are a little easier to make, too, and to take on. So very positive from that perspective. I think it's just encouraging that in addition to McDonagh and what he brings, you have also found out that your team has a surplus of a defenseman who you can rely on game in and game out to win games. And I have said this over and over again on various shows. I will reiterate it again. You are not going to be able to keep all of these defensemen. You just aren't. There aren't enough slots on your roster when everybody is healthy. That is a big if. We know injuries do occur. But just like McDonagh's contract does come into play and it's affordable and it just works, the Lightning are also going to have some decisions to make on defensemen for next year as well.
Mm-hmm.
And
Darren Radish is on an expiring contract.
And there are some interesting decisions there. I don't think there's a wrong decision, but I think you're getting the best of Darren Radish, which is what you want. I mean, the goal is to win. It always is here in Tampa Bay. But if you also feel like you have a surplus and you can address another need by trading from a position of strength, Julian has shown over the years, don't take my word for it, just look at the actions, that he's willing to do that. It's a good problem to have. Ryan McDonagh is a big part of all of this. But I think for the organization, you've got some options now. You've got some good options moving forward. And McDonagh being part of that is nice to have. We also got word, correct, that the Lightning recalled a goaltender from Syracuse who we've seen here before, and it appears that Johansson, is that right, partner, is going to get the opportunity to be in net.
Yeah, more
tonight.
than appears. He's going to get the start, and that is an unexpected start. That's the word that John Cooper used. Vasilevskiy is dealing with, let's call it a minor injury. Yeah. Coop didn't think that it would be anything that would keep him out even beyond Saturday. He thinks he's going to start Saturday, Vasilevskiy. But for tonight, Johansson gets the start. Brandon Halverson, called up from Syracuse, as he mentioned, is going to back up. So, look, I mean, the Lightning have had Johansson in games before. It's not, setting off alarm bells that Johansson is getting the start. What might set off alarm bells would be if Vasilevskiy's going to miss a significant amount of time, but it doesn't sound like that's the case either. There's one other bit of news relating to the roster, and that is that I think they put Braden Point on IR, which created a roster spot, but Max Crozier came off IR, and Crozier is going to come back in the lineup tonight. It has been a season full of stops and starts for Max Crozier. This has to be very, very frustrating for him. He got hurt early in the season. What was it? The game at Washington, which was the 4th game of the year. Missed 8. Came back, played 1 game? 2 games? 1 game maybe? Took a puck in practice, missed 2. Came back, played a few, got injured again, and missed 8 more. So, actually, Dave Randorf and I were chatting with him this morning, and he's like, I've never been through anything like this, where it's like 1 injury a year, Yeah. And he's like, now I've had multiple injuries, and he had a good attitude. I mean, he's like, basically, it's easier to have a good attitude when the team is doing well, but he is definitely eager to get back in. It also appears that he may be paired with Carlisle, because I think Santini is coming out. You got a righty coming in. Santini's a righty. Santini's going out. And I just confirmed with Crozier, because I thought I had heard this, that he and Carlisle had played together in Syracuse. Remember, Crozier was with Lilleberg the year that they both came up, which was 2 years ago. That was more the first half of the year. From that point onward, when Crozier has been in Syracuse, he's mostly played with Carlisle. So they have a lot of familiarity with one another. They were actually both on the ice on power play 2 with Syracuse last year, he said. Their second power play unit had 2 defensemen on it. So if Crozier is going to be paired with Carlisle, and there's no reason to believe that he wouldn't be, because you got Radish with Moser, Destu with Lilleberg, then they have a lot of familiarity with one another. And
that
Carlisle's done well. I mean, Carlisle has
right.
slotted in, and he's given the Lightning really good minutes.
He has. He's looked really good. I mean, again, it talks about that surplus of defensemen that Tampa Bay does have. So
no other lineup changes that I can see, though. I think the forward unit of 12 is going to stay the same.
Yeah, and we got into what to expect a little bit yesterday for this game tonight. Phil Bourque, potentially, at the end of the show, correct?
Assuming he finishes up what he needs to finish up, he's going to join us for like the last 15 minutes. You know what I heard from the Pittsburgh guys, and you can certainly provide more insight on this than me, because I haven't watched 1 minute of any of their games, and I know you keep an eye on them. But it sounds like they've just gotten juice this year. And maybe it's the new coaching staff. They have a completely new coaching staff, by the way. Like Dan Muse, who's been an assistant coach for a bunch of teams, including the Rangers most recently.
Yeah.
And kind of when he was an assistant coach with NHL teams, he oversaw penalty killing. And the Rangers had a very, very good penalty kill while he was their assistant coach. And, I mean, the Penguins have had great special teams play this year. They're number 1 in the NHL on power play, which is a very interesting development, because it wasn't that long ago that they couldn't get out of their own way in the power play. So they're number 1 in the league on the power play. Lightning are first, by the way, on penalty killing. But Penguins are 4th in penalty killing. So you have to wonder if Muse, as the head coach, has his fingers in the pie there on the penalty kill, because that was kind of his area, one of his areas of expertise. He also, incidentally, and this is just my own knowledge from following Yale hockey, he was an assistant for a couple of years at Yale under Keith Lane, who was a longtime head coach of Yale hockey, and Yale won a national championship in 2013 with Dan Muse as one of the assistants. They won the national championship, as it turns out, in Pittsburgh, ironically. 2 of the assistants, Todd Nelson, who's been a head coach in the minors, was the head coach in Hershey the last several years, and Hershey won back-to-back cups recently with him as the head coach. He is now an assistant coach. One of the other assistant coaches is Mike Stothers, who was a very, very tough defenseman when he played in the minors, but has been a long time assistant coach. So both of them have ties to Hershey when I was there. This is like the Dave Mishkin, like.
So they were there when you were there?
Where is your life? Yeah. This is your life. Where is my life is probably a better question. So I got to Hershey in 1994.
Yeah.
Hershey was affiliated with the Flyers. Mike Stothers, who had been with the Flyers and with the Bears as a player, was an assistant coach. He was an assistant coach for 2 years before the Flyers moved their affiliation to Philadelphia and got a minor league team. And then Mike Stothers went with them. He moved on. He was actually an assistant coach most recently in Anaheim and got cancer. He got skin cancer, if I'm remembering right. And I reached out to him, and he was doing okay. I didn't really know that he was back coaching, but he is. So he is now one of the assistant coaches in Pittsburgh. So Mike Stothers was an assistant in Hershey, overlapping with me for 2 years. My second year in Hershey, Todd Nelson, as a player, was a defenseman. Again, affiliated with the Flyers, but he is a former Penguin. He actually was in the Penguins organization earlier in his career. As a minor league defenseman, he was an offensive defenseman. He is since retired, obviously, and became a very successful head coach at the minor league level, but also has been an assistant at the NHL level. So the coaching staff for the Pittsburgh Penguins is Dan Muse, who'd never been a head coach before, interestingly, only an assistant at every level. To the best of my knowledge, I should confirm that. But I saw that he's been an assistant, certainly never been a head coach at the NHL level. You got Muse, you got Mike Stothers, a very experienced assistant coach. You got Todd Nelson, a very successful head coach in the minors and also an assistant. And Nick Bonino is there too. And it almost sounds like Nick Bonino is kind of their Dan Hinote, like a guy who's Hinote retired longer ago than Bonito, but a guy who can really relate with players. And, I think that it's just added a lot of juice to their team, in addition to some of the guys that you were talking about, their kid line with Kindle, playing on that line. Ville Koivunen was the guy that they got in the Gensel trade. He's done pretty well for them, I guess. So they've had a good year. Special teams have been great. Their metrics are strong, Greg. They're over 3 goals a game. Goals for. They're under 3 goals a game, goals against. Crosby's got 18 goals. He's third in the league.
He's on pace for 59. I don't think it's going to happen, but we'll
see. There are only 2 guys with more goals than him,
which is incredible.
McKinnon, and Morgan Geekie.
Yeah, who had
Penguins
that?
are 7-3-3 on the road. They've had a very, very good start to the year,
and their goaltending, I told you, has been a lot better.
Well. That was the other thing
collectively.
I heard. Yeah.
It's been good. Malkin has also. There's been a lot of talk that if this is his last year in the NHL partner, that he wants to go out with a bang, and I think he's trying to play maybe for another contract. It might not be for Pittsburgh. Who knows?
He's at a point per game, 26 points after 25 games, mostly on assists.
And he was playing on a huge line to start the year. Mantha was on his line, and then the kid they got from Minnesota, who's injured right now, was somebody who got off to a really good start. But I think the average height on that line was like 6'4", 6'5". And then I think the elephant in the room.
You're talking about Justin Brazeau?
That is correct.
Yeah.
That is correct.
I was called Brazeau, but the Penguins announcers told me they're calling him Brazeau. He was in Boston. He was in Boston too.
He was in Boston, but he came out of the gates and it was like, wait a minute, this guy's 28 years old? Is he figuring it out? But he was playing with Malkin for a while. Carlson has been much, much better this time around than his first couple of years in Pittsburgh. And some people will say it's because of the Olympics coming up.
Maybe.
There's that incentive to play for it, but he has been a lot better on the back end.
By the way, I just want to correct myself. Dan Muse was a head coach for 2 years in the USHL.
Gotcha.
So that is junior hockey in the U.S. His second year, though, Chicago Steel, his second year there, they won the championship. So good for him. And then he went to Nashville as an assistant and last couple of years with the Rangers as an assistant, according to Hockey DB. and he had 5 years at Yale as an assistant. And what the Penguins announcers were telling me is that Keith Allain, who since retired, he just retired as head coach of Yale, Allain was one of his mentors. Yeah. So, you come up the ranks and you learn from the guys that you're working with. Anyway.
So, and I think also to your point, you bring in a new voice, I think you do get a bump.
Yeah.
I don't know how long that lasts, but I think a lot of people felt like Mike Sullivan's voice was the same old. And that's kind of where they are. So, yeah. Should be a good game. Always is between, when those two teams meet, as we know, partner over the years. Do you want to get to a couple of questions here, or a few questions, or is there anything else you want to hit?
Well, I found this out because I was curious. The Penguins have a weird road trip. So they played on Monday in Philadelphia, 2 days off, the game tonight, 2 more days off, and then they played Dallas on Sunday. That might be an afternoon game. I'm not sure. I know the Lightning, when they're in Dallas, they play in the afternoon. So it might be 2 days and then an afternoon game. But it's weird to have a 3-game road trip with 2 off days in between all the games, right? So it looks like Phil Bourque got done early. So he's coming in. We can talk to him. I actually heard this from Phil. So the Penguins actually went home after they played the Flyers.
Right.
So they didn't come straight to Tampa. They had a practice yesterday at home and then made the trip to Florida. So they're not getting a lot of time here. Now, I found out that they're leaving for Dallas right after the game. So shed a tear for the Penguins. They're getting little time in Florida. Although Dallas, Texas isn't.
That's pretty good too, right?
20 degrees. So
That's right.
We're going to switch cameras here, Borky, and you'll be looking. There is the man.
The old 2-9er.
The old 2-9er.
Borky.
Sorry, you know what? You didn't tell me that I was supposed to wear all 5 of my Stanley Cup rings and hold them in front of my face the way that Linnelli is. Is that how that works? Was I supposed to?
Greg, he has a second one.
Wear all 5 of them?
Should I subtly just show it to you, Borky? No.
I had to compliment him for the people who are watching the stream. He is one of the best dressed people at morning skates. Look at how nice he looks.
Borky gets it done. There's no doubt about it.
People come
on radio Tampa, too.
They think it's like a pleasure trip. This ain't no pleasure trip. This is
it's all about
trip,
it,
man.
It's all business
about
trip.
It's all about this right here. It's all about the dub.
So let's start here, Borky, because we were trying to. Greg follows the Penguins more closely than I do, but I chatted with you and your colleagues this morning. Basically, it sounds like one reason why the Penguins have done better this year, maybe better than expected and better than in some past years, there's just a little bit more juice to this team, a little bit more life. Like, would you agree with that? And if so, why? Why is there more juice?
I think, number one, there's a new voice in Dan Muse. New ideas, fresh ideas. He's very organized. And, and I guess maybe in a sense, Coop had this when he first walked into that Lightning locker room. He never played the game, right? And so you don't have the street cred. So how are you going to get the attention and the respect of guys that have had success before? And that is being very well organized, having those fresh ideas, and delivering them in a very kind of right to the point type of way. Number one. Number two, we have brought up young players, and I mean, we got an 18-year-old Ben Kindle as our 3C, and he's just not up here, to look good. He's up here and he's playing on the power play number 1 with Ricard Raquel out. So everybody's playing. Everybody has a role, and that role has been identified. And then the third part would be our goaltending. Our goaltending has just been rock solid. I mean, we had Sergei Maryshev up here, and he was really good. So the depth within the organization, I think, has, and I don't want to speak for Tristan Jarry, Dave, but I think it has kind of, in a healthy way, given him that fear and that boost. He's also become a new dad, which has something to do with it. But I think that's a really long-winded answer to your short question. But
we have an hour. You can talk
between
as much
Dan
as you
Muse, the young players, the goaltending, and then, come on, man, I can't leave out Sidney Crosby in the way he's played at 38 years of age.
He's been incredible. The other thing, too, Borky, I've noticed, and I'm curious your thoughts on it, Erik Karlsson is just a enigma in many ways, but I'm wondering, I mean, there may be various reasons why he's playing better this year than he was maybe the previous 2, but how much credit do you give to his defense partner in Parker Wotherspoon, who seems like a guy as steady as a rock. And is he allowing Karlsson to do some different things?
Thank you. You said it perfectly. Parker Wotherspoon, and anybody who's watching or listening to this is probably saying, who? I've never Witherspoon? No, Wotherspoon. Parker Wotherspoon. He's with the Boston Bruins organization. And when Hampus Lindholm went down last year, he got a chance. And he made the most of it. He played over 50 games, and he was just rock solid. And he is oozing with confidence. And for a lot of these guys, and whether you're talking about Wotherspoon or Ryan Shea or Anthony Mantha, players that have come in and been given a fresh sheet of ice to say, you got a chance, man. You got a legitimate chance to be a longtime Pittsburgh Penguin. And now it's up to you to kick the door open. And that's what he's done. So, yeah, he's been a great compliment because he's that stay-at-home guy. Yeah. But he does so many. He's so good in the penalty kill. He brings a physical element to the backside, which I have to admit we didn't have for a long time. You know, Sid was our toughest guy because he always had to stick up for himself. Not anymore. Parker Wotherspoon has been a great compliment to Erik Karlsson because he allows Erik Karlsson to do what he does best, and that is be an offensive defenseman. But also, let's get Mike Stuthers, who has come in as an assistant coach, runs the defense, to have that relationship with Erik Karlsson because it's not that easy to form a bond with him, to get the most out of him, but hold him accountable defensively. And guess what this also they're doing, Greg, is they put him on as a penalty killer. And he said, no other coach has ever trusted me enough to put me out there in the penalty kill. He's a really good penalty killer. He's been one of our best. And the reason why our penalty kill is top 5.
I want to ask about the Pittsburgh power play. We've gotten a lot of commentary from fans on our show about the Lightning's power play, which has been a top 5 power play for years and has struggled this year. I mean, it's struggled to not only score, but to look good sometimes as well. The fact that the Penguins are coming in at 33%, number 1 in the NHL in the power play, isn't shocking. I think what is shocking, or was shocking, was a couple of years ago, we were looking at a power play. I believe at one point they were under 10%. I'm not sure if they finished under 10%, but they were down near the bottom. So many of the same players are on this 33.3% power play. How do you explain maybe what happened a couple of years ago? Was it just one of those years? And how have they been able to turn it around and kind of get back to where a lot of people expected the power play should be?
Okay, I'm going to rip the Band-Aid off here and just give it to you straight. It got stale. It got stale. The main players on the team were not held accountable for trying to do things on their own. They were their own worst enemy. They were trying to force things that just were not there. And maybe if it worked on the 80th time, after 79 times it not working, you'd be like, oh, my God, that was absolutely beautiful. But what about the other 79 times it didn't work? Right. So, again, credit to Todd Nelson, who has come in as a new assistant coach, new, fresh ideas. And, Dave, we've been doing this without Rickard Rakell for most of the season. And so, again, you've taken 18-year-old Ben Kindle, plugged him into that role, and it's been really good. But to get back to Erik Karlsson, if you go back to over the years, Erik Karlsson putting up ridiculous numbers, right? But not huge power play numbers. This year, and again, I'm not going to give you a sexy answer here, but I'm going to give you the right answer. They have simplified it. When the shot is there, they take the shot. They put it on the net. They make it low and hard. So it's not. And this isn't a top secret in the National Hockey League, but it's not the initial shot that goes in most times on power plays. It's those second and third opportunities when you have skill galore. And I'm talking about the Tampa Bay Lightning here too, right? When you have Victor Hedman just pounding pucks into the feet of goaltenders, it's not the Hedman shot that scores the power play goal. It's whether you had Stamkos here, or you got Cooch, or you got other guys in front of the net there. Now you have Jake Gensel. It's those second and third opportunities that are created because nothing breaks down a power play, a penalty killing more than a shot on net. It sounds like a simple answer, but it's the most effective thing to do, and the Penguins do it night in and night out on the power play.
Borky, let me ask you this, because there's been a lot of talk in Pittsburgh, maybe nationally, about Malkin, this being his last year. His play dipped, and there were things that were going on with him. Yeah. Do you feel like his play has changed for the better so far early on, and does this warrant another look for the Penguins to sign him maybe to another year moving forward?
Wow, great question. I was hoping you didn't ask it.
It's okay. Nobody in Pittsburgh's listening to the show.
No. here's what I'll say about Evgeny Malkin. He has a burr in his saddle, and I think he's taken this personal, knowing that everybody and their mother's brother is talking about this last year of his contract, and that the Penguins have kind of said, without saying it, that they're not going to re-sign him. And he's basically said to himself, if this is my last year as a Pittsburgh Penguin, I'm going to make it fun, I'm going to make it the best, and I'm going to make people miss me, because he doesn't plan on retiring. Whether he's going to go back to the KHL and play there in his hometown in Magnitogorsk, or maybe he's got a place down in Miami. Maybe he want to play down in Florida, maybe here, I don't know. I don't think there's a lot of teams in the league he wants to play for. I heard Dallas might be a destination because Sergei Gonchar, his good friend and former landlord, has a place down there still. So there's those things. But I think at the end of the day, if this is his last year, and I think I am speaking for Evgeny Malkin here, if it is his last year as a Pittsburgh Penguin, he wants to make it one of his best. And as far as his game is concerned, a lot of the great players in this league take shortcuts, right, just to create offensive numbers. He would take it to the next level where it would be a detriment to his game. And you call it lazy hockey, shortcut hockey, whatever you want to call it. Again, I'm being straight to the point here. That seems to be out of his game now. There's a lot more stopping and starting, tighter turns, responsible defensively, back checking with a purpose, not making risky cross-ice passes that are not there. All those things seem to have diminished from his game because he realizes, if I want to be known as a great Penguin, as he's going to be, I don't want my last year to kind of have these flaws that my game has had over the last couple of years, and it's been really buttoned up.
Borky, I want to ask you about Mike Lang, who tragically we lost not that long ago. And just, Greg often says, Dave, you work with a Hall of Famer, Phil Esposito, you work with a Hall of Famer, Mike Lang. And some people may not know that, Mike Lang for years and years did TV.
Right.
And had to take a haircut. I mean, I don't want you to get into the details of that, but it's not the easiest thing in the world when you're used to doing TV and they're like,
humbling. Sure.
We're making a change here. You're doing radio. But he ended up sitting next to you for a number of years doing radio. Hall of Fame broadcaster, Hall of Fame person. What did it mean to you after you were a player and Mike Lang was a broadcaster to spend that sort of time with him, sitting next to him for all those years?
Regret that I didn't get to know Mike Lang, the person, because, Dave, back in those days, we didn't fly charter. We stayed over everywhere, and we hung out with the broadcasters. We had 2 beat writers, and we'd go to the bar with them, and it was no big deal to see Dave Molinari and Tom McMillan, who were the beat writers at the time. They're in there, hey, Borky, let me get you, that's how it was back then. And I kind of knew Mike, but I didn't really take the time to know him, his family, and what he was all about. But I did as a broadcaster. And as you know, if you want to be really good in the booth, you have to be really tight outside the booth. And then the booth is just an extension of the relationship that you have with that person. And I learned that from Mike. And now, whether I work with Steve Mears or Josh Getzoff or now Joe Brand, one of the first things I said to them when I started working with them was, we need to form that brotherhood, that kinship, that friendship outside the booth, so we'll be good in the booth. And they were just like, yeah, I like it. Let's do it. And so we do a lot of that outside the booth. But, Mikey was so professional with me as far as teaching me what it was to be a broadcaster. I used to yell. I used to raise my voice. I don't even want to listen to some of my games I did before I started working with Mike Lang. But little by little, he'd just be like, hey, Borky, we said this and the other. Why don't you try it this way next time? And I'd be like, okay, that sounds. He just had a way, right, Greg? He had a way about him of being a mentor, but also being a friend. And it's not always what you say; it's how you say it, that kind of thing. And he just slowly was mentoring me, and told me how to use my voice and inflection and volume, and use all these things, and not just be when you get excited, yelling and screaming and pegging the needle on the, use your voice. And one other thing I'll never forget, he told me, he said, hey, Borky, do you know there's a lot of blind people that listen to our broadcast? No, what are you talking about? He goes, yeah, shut-ins, blind people, and they get in front of the radio, and they want you to paint the picture with your voice. They want you to use your voice to put them in the building and describe in detail what is happening. And every single game, I remember that. It's a great kind of visual, just a mental reminder to have in your head to remember the details and to use your voice. And that person that might be in a quiet living room with just a radio in front of them, they're blind and they're just sitting there and they want to get excited. They want to feel like they are in the arena watching the game through your voice.
And you're right, because I get a chance when I'm not listening and working the Lightning games, listen to the Penguin games, and that's what happens. A lot of times after a goal, especially Borky, you will take some time to let it marinate, and then you'll describe, what happened. And I think, heck, you've even done a couple of periods of doing play-by-play at this point. So
I actually did 2.5 games on the West Coast when Josh Getzoff went down, and I already had respect for people like you, Dave. But I went to a whole nother level when I had to do multiple games.
Incredible.
It's not that easy. I was just like, oh, now I actually have to know how to say the names and remember things. Well, as a color guy, you have that extra time. But it was
for
fun.
sure. I always love it when Phil Esposito always goes, David, what's his name? Okay, all right. And then it's all. I wanted to ask before we let you go, Borky, the state of the game. We've talked about faster, guys are more skilled, but there's a ton of parity. We're seeing breaks in the season with the 4-team tournament, the Olympics. We're seeing some injuries. I don't know if that's because of condensed schedule. Everybody has their own personal opinion on it. Where do you make the state of the game? Do you like a lot of the parity where players coming up are very skilled? Do they have that hockey sense? Maybe that a lot of guys had 20, 25 years ago. It seems like everybody has a skills coach. Everybody knows how to shoot the puck, but where do you stand on that?
I think the game's in a good place. I mean, the skill is off the charts. And, there's talk of expansion, Houston, Atlanta, and people say, oh, you're going to dilute the league. No way. These other countries, whether it's Slovakia or Slovenia or all these countries in Europe and what they're doing at USA Hockey, there are so many players that are ready to be really good players in the National Hockey League. We're going to be fine with 2 more teams in the league. There's enough balance. And the difference between when I played, 30, 40 years ago, those fourth lines had a bunch of thugs on them, right, that played 2 or 3 minutes. And usually when they went out there, they just wanted to kick the snot out of you. They had a tough time stick handling from one end of the ice to the other. Not anymore. Number 5 and 6 defensemen, third lines are all really good hockey players that can play on any team. So, the skill level's off the charts. I'm the old guy in the room, so I still like fighting. I still like the toughness. I still like the intimidation. I like that players can police the game without it being the referees. I like retribution. I like all that stuff. I like to be able to look in a guy's eye and say, I'm going to kick the living snot out of you, and maybe for a second he believes it. And vice versa. Sure. I like when somebody tried to intimidate me, because you don't get that in any other job. So I like all that, and that's kind of the old school in me. But our star players, whether we're talking about Sid or we're talking about Cooch or Vasilevskiy, like that's awesome, man. There's so much of that in the league, and now we're looking what what Bedard's doing and all these other young players, these up and comers. They're 18, 19, 20. It's incredible, where our game is right now, and you think about the caps going up and what could that mean, and it's really exciting that every single team has so many superstar players, and even the players that are not superstars still can do things that a lot of players couldn't do 30 or 40 years ago.
It's a good point. Borky, we appreciate it. It's always good talking hockey with you, and we'll catch you at the rink a little bit tonight.
Enjoy the game. Yeah, pens and bolts, always a wild one.
It is.
Enjoyed the hockey talk, boys.
Thanks for stopping in, Borky.
Anytime.
All right, Phil Bourque joining us right there. Want to let you know, by the way, as I get to my famous read partner, Refrum, smooth, versatile, now pouring at Benchmark International Arena. Order a Tropical Wave or a Lightning Mule and taste why fans are switching. Refrum is a premium craft Florida local rum built on authenticity, quality, and easy drinkability. Ask for Refrum by name. Go Bolts. Enjoy responsibly. We may have some time to play Ryan McDonagh's presser in just a little bit here, so we may try to end the show with that. But always good to have Borky.
You often ask me, what did you make of that interview? I'll ask you, what did you make of that interview?
I mean, I think that was
everything he said kind of rang true with what you're seeing from the Penguins this year.
Yeah. What I said yesterday. That's right. I mean, the thing look, Crosby usually plays well against Tampa Bay. That's, we talk about keys of the game tonight.
Yeah.
How are you containing him? You talk about you can't turn the puck over. Strong on pucks. What do we know? Crosby and Rust, particularly those two guys, can make you uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And so that's going to be a challenge. The power play will be interesting because that can be an equalizer. I mean, I think Tampa Bay is the better team. But if you give Pittsburgh 3 or 4 power play opportunities tonight, the way it's going this year, that's a little dicey.
Right.
But
you know what's an interesting stat? I wrote this down because it jumped out at me. So the Penguins have had the fewest power play opportunities in the entire NHL.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes you see that because a team has fewer games played because it's just counting the number of power play chances. The Penguins are not there, though. They're kind of right where most teams are in games played. So they just have not gotten a lot of power play opportunities this year. The other part that's interesting, they have been shorthanded 30 more minutes than they've been on the power play, which is among the worst ratios in the NHL. Now, some of that is they're scoring the power play, so they're not being on for the 2 minutes, and they're killing a lot of penalties, so they're shorthanded for the full 2 minutes. But even baking that into the cake, probably a lot of teams are doing what you're saying. This power play is lethal. We need to stay away from penalties, and teams are doing that. I mean it's just right there.
Should.
You can see that they are not getting as many power play chances. They have not gotten as many power play chances as any other team in the NHL coming in.
It's a good point, and it should be dangerous. You've got 3
it should be dangerous.
Hall of Famers on it. Carlson, Crosby, and Malkin. It should strike fear into the opposition. At times over the last couple, it did not.
Yeah.
So
Well, for the fans of the Lightning who are looking at the Lightning power play and saying, shoot the puck, we could probably put Borky's answer on repeat there, right? Because he's like, it's not the first shot that's going to go in. It's going to create a situation where the next shot is going to go in. Simplifying it. That has seemed to be very important for Pittsburgh. And they got a new coach running the power play, Todd Nelson, which I didn't know he was running the power play, but
right.
He's come in with a different voice, maybe some different ideas, and clearly they're doing things a little differently than they did when they were down near the bottom in power play percentage.
Alan says, great interview with Phil Bourque regarding Malkin. Greg, with your Pittsburgh connections, can you get in JBB's ear and get Malkin? You can do it, Greg. I believe in you. No, I think if Pittsburgh's in a playoff run, they're not going to trade Malkin.
Maybe he's talking about next year.
Do I think that would be interesting? He's got to play a certain way, though, and I'm not sure. Is he a top 6 in Tampa? I don't know. I don't know. Dave says, I take Gino for a top 9 guy in Tampa all day long. You gotta. The player also has to fit that role. That's the other thing. Maybe for a year it happens. I don't know. It is what it is. At Bolts Radio. All right, I think we do have Ryan McDonagh from just a little bit ago. I know Steve has queued that up. We want to go to that for a bit here on the show on Lightning Radio.
Julian had told us at the start of camp that there wouldn't necessarily be anything until after the season. What kind of changed to kind of get to this point today?
I mean, really nothing changed from my motivation. It was, his decision to start the talks, and I was really encouraged to hear that because I was kind of dead set on, just letting the season play out and see where it goes from there. So it wasn't a long, I would say, negotiation. So I think both parties were really excited to get something done, and it happened relatively quick. And I'm thrilled with the result and couldn't be happier.
I was going to say, you've been pretty adamant about your return here and not wanting to leave here. I mean, what's that mean to you that that's going to be the case?
It sure means a lot, and I'll repeat the same thing I said when I first got traded here, along the lines of a top team wanting you to be a part of it and wanting and putting their belief in you. To ultimately achieve what we're shooting for here is the ultimate goal, and when you have that belief shown in you, it motivates you. encourages you to keep going out and working hard and taking care of yourself to go out and perform at the level that's expected of you, and that's what I plan to do, and take a lot of pride in being a dependable player and someone that coaching staff, players can trust with, and like I said, to have that belief shown from management here means a lot. And this place is obviously special in many ways, but you can find a lot of places to live and work in this world, but it's the people that make a place truly special. And this place has a lot of special people from the top down, and which makes it such a great place to show up to work every day and give it your all and leave it all out there.
Can you talk about this journey, maybe the past couple years, of what it's been like for you going to Nashville? I remember your tribute video when you came back, and you get traded back to Tampa, and it looks like this is where you're going to be for, till the end. Like, what has this journey been like for you, kind of going back and forth?
It's kind of hard to put into words and think back to, how the twists and turns have happened, and we have such amazing runs. You achieve the ultimate, pinnacle of success in this sport, not once but twice and almost a third time, and then you're thrown a curveball and life takes you another direction, and obviously my job is to be the best hockey player I can and help teams win hockey games, but I've also got a family now, and I'm a husband and a father, and those are the most important relationships in my life, and so you get thrown a curveball like that. You've got to, make do and make the best of it, and continue to be a good role model and example for them, my kids, and to be back here now and be able to say that I can raise them in a place like Tampa Bay, makes coming to the rink even easier, because you can be that husband, you can be that father that you envision, all while being able to play a game that you truly love. So, like I said, it's been a roller coaster of a few years, and just really thrilled to have that stability now and be able to leave it all out here for a handful of years.
When a team shows that they have a belief in not what you have done but what you can continue to do, what does that do to you as a player?
Yeah, I talked about that. That's what drives you to keep motivated and keep working hard, keep doing the little things, and all those things that make a difference between winning and losing. It's so small, and you want to bring your part to the team, your role to the team, and we've done a great job of making sure everybody is valued in those roles, and I know what's expected of me here, and that allows me to go out and do the job to the best of my ability and help lead these guys and play at a high level and help this team, keep winning and having a lot of success.
How excited is the family?
They're thrilled. I mean, they're still young, my kids, and they're happy when we told them the news, and obviously they love living here in Tampa Bay as much as we do, and going to school here and playing sports, and like I said, they're still a little young yet. I'm sure they'll appreciate the stability in their life as they get older here, but it's awesome for them.
Matt Coop just said if guys like Ryan McDonagh are not in the Hall of Fame, then why have a Hall of Fame? I mean, how do you absorb a statement like that? Can you kind of put that in words?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's a very generous comment, and like I said, just thrilled to be able to be at this stage of my life and career and keep playing, and know a lot of guys that would love to be in this spot and keep playing and be a part of a locker room, and that's all you can ask for, is to be able to keep competing, keep going after the ultimate goal of hopefully many more cups, and like I said, that's what drives you as a player. That's what brings out that compete and that fire, and we'll see where it takes us from here. But I'm just thrilled to be a part of this group and keep moving forward.
Where are you in terms of getting back on the ice?
Yeah, we were on the ice there a few days. It's it's been tedious for sure, but it's still moving in the right direction, and hopefully it's not too much longer. But the team's been playing incredibly well, and it's been fun to watch and see the guys really gelling out there. And personally, I'm trying to do my best to get back as soon as possible and join them on the ice. But it's been great to see everybody buying in and see this team grow, from being off the ice. But yeah, it's coming along.
Ryan McDonagh earlier today, and the news that he's going to be with the Lightning a little bit longer, which is great beyond this year.
I want to correct myself,
Yeah, go ahead.
Greg. Clearly, this is how closely I follow contracts because Steve corrected me and I didn't see it until just now. So I misquoted McDonagh's current contract. He actually makes more than what I had said. So his current contract is $6.75. That was the contract he signed, the original extension he signed with the Lightning shortly after the first trade when he came from the Rangers. So his new AAV 4.1 is actually a $2.65 million savings per year. So it's a bigger savings than what I had originally said because I quoted his current contract lower than what it is. But that is almost immaterial to the fact that the Lightning got the deal done. Both sides are happy. It's a manageable number. And now this is one thing that Julian has taken off of his off-season to-do list, right?
Yeah.
For whatever reason, he decided to get it done now because it sounded like McDonagh was just as surprised as everybody else that Julian approached him and said, let's get this done.
Hall of Famer.
Yeah, you see his eyes go wide when that was Phil Bourque who asked that question too.
Was it really?
Yeah.
I didn't get that. Well, about McDonagh, our good friend Jim in Jacksonville had this via email partner. He said, if you read in between the lines, Julian really is planning on Ryan McDonagh being with the Lightning well after 3 years. I strongly believe he'll be with the organization in some capacity after he retires as a player. I feel after Jeff Halpern gets a head coaching opportunity, McDonagh would be a great assistant coach here in Tampa Bay.
So, Jim, I appreciate the sentiment. Not every player, when that player retires, wants to, first of all, stay in hockey. Even
Travel.
Figure
Travel, right?
Yeah, I mean, what capacity? Is it going to be like an ambassador? You know, like some players do that where they aren't traveling. They're basically staying and working in the community. But not every player wants to do that, and certainly not every player wants to get into coaching. Some players do, but not all players do. So
He's got a young family.
He's still got some years ahead of him as a player, for sure.
That could be something down the road. Maybe, see, I wasn't going to go coaching. I was going to go more, if you're going to go that route, maybe front office. Mm-hmm. You know, a guy who's got a pretty good eye, maybe for talent, way to play, coaching certainly. The thing about it is with players today at his level, meaning Ryan McDonagh, what are you doing it for? You're doing it because you don't need the money.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice to collect a paycheck.
Well, he said, playing a game I love.
Playing the game I love. But I mean, like beyond it, you've got kids and you've just spent the last 15 years traveling as much as you have.
Right.
You know, maybe he wants to see them grow up a little bit before he takes a job.
Yeah.
Like that again.
Possible.
But again, money does play a role. I'm not saying he wants more money. I'm just saying you don't need to do it, because that's not a motivating factor. It would have to be, I really just enjoy being with the guys and being in that team setting. And that could be. Mytho says McDonagh a true leader.
Yes.
Yes, he is. There's no doubt. Let's get to this question real quick. Anthony says, of course we lose as soon as we get all the media attention. Bjorkstrand should handle the puck more if we keep this power play set up until Point is healthy. He has 4 passing options.
So,
I don't know about that.
Yeah, Anthony, what I'll say is this. Bjorkstrand right now has a little bit of fumbleitis, and I think penalty kill teams know that. So when he does settle the puck down, there's usually somebody coming at him, and he has to get rid of it and make a play. They aren't really backing off of him, honestly. That's what I've seen. So, look, Anthony is right. From that spot, there are passing options that are available, including into the bumper where Nick Paul is for a one-timer. But I think the most important element for Bjorkstrand is shooting and scoring, which is his greatest strength. But I said element because until that happens, the rest of his game may not really click into place. I think he needs to have some good stuff happen, which is kind of what we were saying about Hagel. Hagel was scuffling early in the year, and then he finally got that first goal and took off. Now, that's one end of the spectrum. Not everyone is going to be able to do what he did from the end of October until now, basically. But I think for Oliver, seeing a puck go in off one of his, really good shots would help him a lot. I think about that more than handle the puck more, try and make a play, pass to this guy. Right now, it's just not locked in for him. And this can happen. We see it happen to players who are among the very best in the world. Like he's in a funk right now. There's no question.
And I have no idea because I haven't asked him this question, but I have to think somebody who is more of an offensive threat, who is dangerous on the power play and gets some points via the power play. The fact that that is not part of his arsenal right now has to hurt his confidence.
Yeah.
Because you could sit there and say, all right, 5-on-5, I'm struggling for whatever reason. I get on the power play, though, I can still contribute. I have my shot.
They do have him, and we saw it the other night against the Islanders, but again, it was one of those games where Coop did mix up the lines quite a bit because Douglas is not playing a regular shift. So that means everybody else is kind of moving around a little bit. But, Bjorkstrand is playing with Paul and Gensel basically in a top six right now. So he'll have an opportunity to play with some very good offensive players, and let's see if he can get going tonight. I'm talking about 5-on-5, but also potentially in the power play where those two guys are also out there with Radish and Kucherov. That's your first power play unit now.
Yeah, 100%. I just think, sometimes you can lean on other areas of your game if you're struggling. Bjorkstrand's more of an offensive player, so the way those guys may look at things and say, maybe I can get going in this spot, in this area, which would be the power play. If that's struggling for you, then you've taken that away from you in your arsenal. And it really puts a lot of pressure on you to produce 5-on-5 if you're not getting anything on the power play. And the whole team has struggled on that. So it's not just him, but he was part of the solution. I mean, there was a big part of everybody that felt like, I remember going on Sirius XM when they acquired him, and not only where he would play, but on the power play.
Yeah.
That was the thinking then, and it just hasn't happened. It doesn't mean it won't. It just hasn't happened. So we'll see. It is what it is, and Anthony finally responds back. He's good defensively, but if still the same at the trade deadline, I would trade him for Stamkos with retention. That opens up another, I don't want to say can of worms. I just think there might be some other things going on there that you have to iron out a little bit. But certainly Nashville's not in a good spot.
No, Nashville's not in a good spot. I had a good win the other night where I mentioned Stamkos got his 1,200th point. And nice to see this. I don't know if you knew about the Weisblatt family. 4 boys. I believe all 4 played hockey, but, Ozzy is in the NHL. One of the older brothers tragically passed away in a car accident. I'd seen the story. It was maybe a year ago or so. The mom raised the 4 boys by herself, and she is deaf. It was a very touching story. TSN did it. You can probably Google it and see it. All 4 boys, their first name starts with the letter O. So Ozzy is in Nashville. Orca was the older brother who passed away, and Ozzy just in that same game where Stamkos got his 1,200th point, Ozzy got his first NHL goal and did the point to the sky, and very touching. But that was a rare bright spot for Nashville this year. They've had a very tough season, to say the least.
Wow. Puts it in perspective, doesn't it?
Yep.
With a lot of things there. All right, we got the game tonight at 7, and you and I will come on these airwaves tomorrow.
Yes.
To recap. Are we going live or do we tape? What do we talk about?
We have not discussed.
We like to be transparent with our audience.
I'm okay going live.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're okay going live tomorrow.
I'm okay going live if we want to do that. I think our audience loves it when we go live, so get those questions in for sure as we hit those airwaves. Glad we were able to get Phil Bourque on and play Ryan McDonagh too, so we had some good content for everybody as well. I will catch you in a few hours, partner, down at the rink, and we'll get ready for Lightning and Pens.
See you in a few.
Good job. Yeah, you got it. Steve Ersnick, thank you for all your hard work. Jared Johnston as well. I am Greg Linnelli. You've been listening to Power Lunch right here on Lightning Radio.